This project is really interesting. It came out of some ideas that we had with a group of us from the Musicians Network coming together actually several years in a row now. Each September we meet and just have a day together. And during that day we allow some space just to improvise. And some of those times of improvisation have been so profound, and we had you, April, singing in those, and they were such joyful and profound moments. Just had the idea, could we actually improvise a full classical work? And so had the idea, why don't we try and do an improvised oratorio? Had no idea when we first mentioned that what on earth that would mean, but that was where the idea was born. We've had a group of about 5 or 6 of us, haven't we, that have got together, and we've just carefully, prayerfully thought, okay, how can we turn these ideas of improvisation into a full-scale work that will keep people's imaginations alive? It's one thing just improvising for an hour, but that's probably too unstructured. So we came up with this structure of doing 7 movements, as we're doing this evening, starting right from the beginning of time, going right through to the end of time, and basing it on the idea of a river. And it's been amazing how those ideas have come together. So we've got huge numbers of feelings and ideas, moments, right from incredibly still through to really joyous, where everybody is playing and just expressing everything that's in their hearts. My desire is that it will so capture people's imaginations, us first, but everybody who comes, that people will say, you must do more of this. Or we will say to ourselves, this is so much fun as it is, and we would love to take this elsewhere. It's completely groundbreaking. We don't think anybody has done anything quite like this before. So my hope and my dream and my belief is that it will so capture people's imaginations that people will say, we must do more of this. Because I think we're speaking now in a culture that is desperate for something beyond the mundane of life. And I think what this work is doing is speaking really powerfully into that and pointing people outside of themselves and outside of the mundane things that they do each day to something much higher and much bigger and actually much more important ultimately. And I think that's desperately needed.
Well, the whole thing began when I first came to one of the meetings of the Musicians Network, and we tend to do some improvisations as part of those sort of annual vision days. And it was like nothing that I'd ever experienced. I mean, I'd done some improvisation as a folk fiddler, a little bit as a singer, and also in the context of things like playing in church, but I'd never actually done anything on that scale. And it was also pretty special because you had all these amazing orchestral musicians in one place improvising, and it was like having a symphony just spring into being around you. And it was a really unique experience. And especially the second 2 times that I did it, there was something quite special that happened. I think that everybody in the room felt that that was something pretty unique. And so Richard approached me and said, well, do you think that we could perhaps extend this? Do you think we could make something bigger out of this? And we were chatting with Peter Asprey, who's the director of music here at St. Sepulchre's, and the idea of an improvised oratorio was first mooted probably nearly 2 years ago, and we thought, oh well, wouldn't it be great? And it took us a while to do that, and then so we've started meeting and hammering out what would need to actually happen, and hence we're here today. So in a sense this is the same because we have 18 players. It's basically a full orchestra. All the normal sections of an orchestra represented, and we even have a Baroque group, which you wouldn't normally have in a symphony orchestra. And I've been very lucky because I get to sing with Baroque groups as well, and those instruments are very different, and they have a very different sound world. Well, I've been given a voice, and I think I've been given an imagination to match it. I think that I love text as well because I'm a poet. That's one thing that really inspires me, the actual words that I'm dealing with. Today is a interesting example because some of the text comes from the Bible, some of it comes from the liturgy of the church, and some of it is my own. And so whenever I'm singing my own words, it's like I have to pretend they were written by someone else. But it's some sort of coming at it from a different remove. But I love bouncing off the ideas that I have on the page. It's like raw material, and I think, great, okay, so what can we do with this? And then I'm trying to create a whole three-dimensional world in sound from what I do. So I think text is a big part of that. But in this context, also trying to kind of bounce off other people and build on what they've given me.